So hello everyone, welcome again, and today we are going to understand the flow and overview of the airline ticket booking project. In this entire video, I will show you how the internally source code is linked and how the flow working internally. So as you know, it's Embassy project. So Embassy is the stand for the Model View Controller, and if you want to read more about the Embassy, you can visit correct.com under the codec. If you go in the section Java web development, you will see step by step like how you can send the data, how can you receive the data, all the CRUD operations, how can you perform user login, logout activity, all these things are available here. So you can read it free of cost, and I'm gonna tell the basic architecture of the project. So we have a same architecture for every JSP and servlet project. So I'm gonna tell you little bit about the technology and tools that we are using in this project. So it's using HTML, JSP, and CSS. So these are the designing purpose. So JSP is a common tool, so it's used for this the designing purpose as well as for the server side programming. And Servlet basically is used for the servers to handle the server side requests. So whenever the client or HTML is going to send the request to server, that just Servlet is the only there who's going to take that request and send the response. So handle the server request, we are going to use Servlet. To manage the backend, we are using MySQL here. So our database is designed into the MySQL completely. And to deploy the application and run the application, we are using Tomcat. So Tomcat is a server that is used to uh, run the web application. So you can read the technology detail here. What is JavaScript? And my aim for this is to explain you the model view controller. So model view is controller something a architecture of programming, you can say. So this is going to separate over all the technologies. So it has three components. The first one is view, control, and model. View contain all the code of HTML, JSP, and CSS. Controller is going to take the code of say servlet and JSP, and model contain all the database transactions, or you can say the code of related to MySQL. So we're going to send the request to controller. Controller going to send the request to model. That model going to send the response to controller, and then same response will send to view. And in the same process, we are developing the complete project. So if we can see this image, we have here a controller package, model package. So this controller package will contain all the servlets. Model package will contain all the database transaction related classes, and under the web we have a complete view part. So this view part going to send the request to controller, then controller going to send the request to model, then model generate a response and send it back to the controller, and then controller back send to the response to view part. Also, we are using Maven. So what is Maven? Maven is a dependency management tool, or you can say it's configuration tool. So use any kind of third-party API. We are using here Maven, and here is the sample of the form.xml. So for example, if I'm going to use any dependency, I have to enter the detail in this dependency package. So for example, you can see here we have a dependency of JUnit. Okay, so let's switch to the project and now continue the process. So to understand this, you should know all this technology in detail, in depth, and you should know the Maven architecture. You should know the Embassy architecture and the Maven tool. So these are the pre-requirement. Okay, if you are new and you don't know about them, I will give you some idea to you. Like you can go the CSS tutorial to learn this, and you can go with this HTML tutorial. It will help you. Also, the Java web tutorial itself contain lots of examples like how to create a Maven project, how to create a header and footer, how to create home page, data utility, servlet, JDBC, registration, login, logout, and all the activities. So you can follow this. Also, you can join our sessions that will also help you to develop application. Okay, let's come to the point and switch to the code again. So in the same format, we have the source code here for airline project as we understand in the image. So let's run the code and switch. Right. So to run the code, always right click on the code, run on server, select your respective server, click on next and finish. So this is our welcome page. So let's come to the code of the welcome page. So I'm gonna go on the welcome page. So this is simple HTML and CSS design that contain an image and a welcome message, which will tell welcome to the online flight booking system. Okay, if I'm gonna come to add flight, so this is the form that we are using. So we'll come under the view part later. Just come to the utility first. So utility is a package. Okay, like as I told you in the MVC, we are separating the things. So under the web folder, whatever the things you can see, CSS, image, JS, and JSP will come under the view part. The same manner under the servlet, you can see this many servlets. So these all the servlets are coming under the server part, or you can say controller part. Under the model part, these three classes which will be responsible to manage the database transactions, so it will come under the model package. So now this three thing is clear, view is clear, model is clear, controller is clear. What the use of this util, what is the use of this exception, and what is the use of beans here. So let's come to one by one on them. So under the util package, so what is the util package? Util package is kind of utility, and this is going to help us to manage these other things. Like for example, if you're gonna use some controller servlet, so under the controller service, we need many services, like we need to validate the data, we need to convert the data, and this kind of utilities that we are going to use as a support which contain under the util package. Okay, so let's check one by one class. So we have one class here is a data utility. The utility class will use to convert the transactions. Like if we have any string value, if you want to convert into the you want to check this the value is null or not, or so you want to perform some validation on that. So you can use this. This method is there. If you want to convert some class, some data object to string, so this is the method here. Similarly, convert a string to integer string to long. So all the common methods are there for the conversion. Next class we have data validator. So data validator is going to validate over the data, like is password, is no roll number. So whenever I need to validate any data, I will call this directly. Okay, so email builder, in case your project is going to use some email configuration, so email builder and email message will help you to generate an email template. Okay, so but it's not in this project, so I'm gonna not explain this in more details. So I'm gonna go HTML utility. So in case for the server side you need any kind of template, HTML template for the server side. It means in any controller, if you need to write some HTML code, so you need to use this HTML utility. Okay, so these are not important. These are not important much important three classes, like email message, email utility, and HTML utility is not important for us. So now the important class is JDBC data source, data utility, and data validator. So let's come to the JDBC data source. This JDBC data source will contain the database connection classes. So whenever I need to connect, create connection with a database. So for every time I'm not going to write the code. So this is the common class that contain code to get connection with the database. So it has one class, one method which is called get connection. This get connection, whenever I need to create get the connection, or we need to connect to the database, I will call this get connection. Similarly, we have one class here, close the connection. So whenever I need to close the connection, I will use this close collection, and similarly we have transaction rollback. Okay, let's come to the property reader. So what is the property reader here? So we are using some external sources under the project. So we have one class system.property. In this property, we have lots of parameters here, like error.required, URL, driver, password. So to read this kind of parameter from the property file, we are using sys property readers file. So we just create an object of this, and we are going to get value. Under this get value, we need to pass the key. Whenever we pass the key, it will return a value here. So value will be the value of that particular key. Okay, let's come to the servlet utility. So many times we need to perform some common activity related to servlet, like we need to forward the page, we need to redirect the page, sometimes we need to handle the exceptions, we need to set error message as a response, we need to get error message as a request. So these kind of common methods we are managing under the servlet utility. These are related to the servlets, and it's going to help us under the controller part. Okay, so that's it, and let's come to the bean. So if you know about the bean or the encapsulation concept, this is the similarly we are using all the getter and setter classes here under the bean. So what is the bean is doing here? Bean is doing converting a object and converting some properties in the object. For example, a user may have many property like username, first name, login, password, convert. So confirm password, role ID. So it's going to set and get the all the property of that user. So in case I need to data of the user bean, I'm going to create an object of user bean, and that user bean object going to set all this value of that particular user, and we are going to getting the data here. Okay, so it will help us to create an object, and also it is used for the encapsulation. Same, the exception is there, so it's real time, and the dynamic exception is going to help us to handle the exception here. So in case we have need to handle the database exception, we have a class database exception. If you want to handle the application exception, we have a class application exception. Another duplicate record not found exception. So according to the use, we'll call them. So these are the really handling exception. Okay, now let's come to the project and check the page at flight here. So let me go to the view part. Here under the user view registration, user registration view, this is the page that you can see at the front side. So this is the page that you are going to check here. You can see internally. So these are the simple form, HTML form, and this form we are going to submitting the data as a user. So if you're gonna check, the form is going to start from somewhere. Okay, let me search for the form. Okay, so form is, this is the HTML form. We have complete form, and this form is going to send the data to next class our user registration control. So whatever the CTL you're going to see it, it's our servlet. So whenever user going to submit, click on the submit button, the data will goes to this user registration controller, and this data will goes into the form of request, and under the controller part, this user registration control will get the data. It will validate the data and populate the bean, like it's going to convert the complete raw data into an object, as I told you before, is a user bean, and then it will come to the do post method and going to communicate with the database. So now the request have to communicate with the database, so it's create one object of user model. So if you come under the user model, we have a user model class here. This user model class will contain to add a user. So here, if you're gonna see under the user controller, we should call the add method somewhere. Let me search it. So site success message. Okay, populate bean. Okay, we are calling here one method is model dot registered user, and we are passing the complete bean object that we have user object, like the whatever the request for coming from the front end, like the first name, last name, and all the object of that particular user. So we are going to pass this bean into the registration registered user. So when I open this registered user, what it is, okay, so this user will contain the transaction code to send the data into the database. So here we have under the user model, we have one method that take object as a user bean, and it's going to send the complete data to database. So at the end, it will return one key. This will be our unique key. So um, if you're going to run the code and if you're going to send the data, so you can say the registration is will return a one message, registration is successfully. Okay, so let's come to the again to the controller. So it will return a response in the format of primary key, and here we are going to getting the response under this long variable. And now if that particular long variable is going to take the response, and we are going to sending the response to view part again. So if you can see, if everything is going good, it's going to send the response to like booking.controller and to the next page. And if is there something wrong, it will again return the user to the user view. So when it's going to return to the user view, it's going to send some response like the data is saved successfully or something. So this response we are going to handling here in this view part. So this is the registration process here, and now let's come to the right flight is done. Come to the login part. So if you're going to user going to log in, or let's come to first on the flight part, then we'll move to the login part. So in the flight, what happening, the data is coming from the database. So the request will be the process and flow will be like MySQL database transactions, like model part going to send the data to servlet, and then servlet will display the data to response or to the view part. So let's check this how the data is coming there. So if we're going to check this, we have one method here which is called the flight list view. So you can see we are going to print the data in a loop format. So somewhere we are getting the data in the list format. You can see here that we have a list here for the data. So this list will contain all the available list of that flights. So how the data is coming and how can we retrieving the data. So if you're going to see the flight model, under the flight model we have one method which is going to get the data. Okay, we have this data as a list, so it's going to call the list. And under the list method, you can see we are passing some queries, select a stick from my flight, means the flight table. It will send all the data. It will convert the data into a object of a list and going to return that list. So under the list controller, the flight list controller, we are getting the data from the front end. If you're gonna see here also, we are creating an object of flight model, and we are going to populate the bean, and here we are going to search, perform the search operation, and we are getting the data, and we are going to set the data to Servlet Utility. Now the front page, or you can say the Servlet Utility view page, flight list view page, we are getting the data in the list form, and we are going to display the data into the loop form. So this is from the front end. Okay, next thing, if you're gonna log in, so as we are using registration, the same way we are using login operation. So for example, let me show you a quick view. So user going to send the data in the form of request as a username password into the login controller. So login controller here the login controller will go and check the data is valid or not. populate bean is also there, so it's going to convert the data, and under the do post method it's going to send the data to model part. So it's create an object of user model, and it's going to call the authentication method from the model class. So if it is not null, it means the user is logged in successfully. It will redirect to the booking controller or the welcome page. Otherwise, it will send a response as an invalid login ID and password. And the same response will display here in the form of error or success message. So it's from the login controller. And okay, let's come to the flight view page, and then we have remaining like booking list and how the booking is going to perform here. So when I'm going to say flight report, so again it's displaying the same data with the complete list of flight. So in the flight ticket report, it means these are the booking flights. So there is a tricky this is really tricky, and we have only one changes here. We need to change only method model method here, and otherwise it will follow the same format. So under the flight booking, we are just calling like for a specific, if you're gonna show I need to change the query in the database. Like I have to select only those flights those are booked, so I just need to change the query, otherwise the data will display same. So let's move to the flight model and the flight booking list controller here. So in this, when I come here and I call the book model populate bean and going to call one method which will be model dot something. So I'm gonna call this, okay, model dot search. So we are calling this search method, but this time the search method will be depend on the query. So there are a different queries are there, like select a book where this flight is booking or something. So we are using the search method to search and display the data. Similarly, it will also generate get a list as a request, and it will send the response to view part, and then view part will display the list here. Okay, so let's come to the booking part finally, and the book view. Now if a user going to click on the book page, it will return a form to the user. So for example, if I'm going to go a flight report, I'm going to click on the as a user I have to log in for this. So I'm going to flight list and click on the book page, so it will redirect me to log in as a user. And let me log in as a user first, and then I will show you how it's working. So I'm going to log in with the user testing, and the other thing is demo at the 123. So when I perform login, it will redirect me onto the page booking control. So this is the simple page, again view, and when user going to enter the data, this data, and submit the data, it will go to the controller part. So if you can see the controller, booking controller, let me move to the booking controller first. So this is the book view. So this contain all the input forms. So again, when data is going to submit, it will redirect to the book control this time. So we have here as a book control, so you are going to send the data to book control as a response. It will validate the data and perform similar operation. So only changes in the method and that is coming from the model. So we create an object of model here, and we are using the find by primary key. So this was for the get operation. So let me check here in the operation. Okay, here also we are calling the find by primary key. So it means it's going to call the booking method and going to send the data to database, and directly if there is some error, it will redirect on the payment view, and if there is not error, it will redirect to the ticket is successfully booked. So let me check the booking models, book model. Here we have all the methods that will going to help us to perform the booking operation from the database. So like it contains next primary key, it means the next data into the list of booking, and we can add a new book by using this method, and we can perform book beans here, and we can find by key. Next, we can delete that operation, we can update that operation, and we can search that operation. So for every operation, we have separate methods. So according to the requirement, we are calling this as a into the servlet and showing the response there. So this is the complete architecture of the project and flow, how it's working. If you want to go and if you want to learn into deep by deep, this will be some long approach. You must have to knowledge of JSP servlets in a deep and the programming as well. So you can comment us. So if you want to go, let's review it one more time. So the request will be like view to controller, controller to model, and then model will generate the response and it will send to the controller, and again the response will go to the view part. So this is the complete flow of the project. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn this, you can join our end-to-end courses also, and that end-to-end courses will perform practically these many operations step by step. So these tutorial is available in the video also. So like how can we create an header and footer, and how can we create home page, data village, all the courses. So you can join the courses, so it will help you to understand and step by step things of how the things is working. I know like this is really complicated to understand, but I am just giving here an overview of internal code. Okay. So one more thing I missed there, so which is the header and footer. So header and footer will be common for every JSP page. So we design some common two common classes, two common JSP page, one for the header and one for footer. So whenever I need this, I will call it as a I will include in under the every page. So here you can see we are including the header.jsp, and in the bottom of this code we are including the footer.jsp. In this way we are managing this. So thank you and best of luck.